Welcome to Shaped by Faith with your host, Theresa Rowe. To find out more about Shaped by Faith and Theresa Rowe, please visit shapedbyfaith.com or visit the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. And now, here is Theresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. Today on Shaped by Faith, I'm honored to welcome David Amerland. David is a chemical engineer with a master's degree in quantum dynamics who's used his gift for science and mathematics to help people understand everything from search marketing and communications to human behavior and decision making. That's a mouthful, David. He is also a lifelong martial artist holding multiple black belts and having competed internationally for nearly a decade. David brings both his analytical mind and his passion for movement into his new book, and we're going to talk about that today, Built to Last: How to Get Stronger, Healthier, and Happier at Every Stage of Life. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm actually looking forward to see how this conversation unfolds.
I am too. So David, tell us where you are right now.
I'm in Greece at the moment. I've been here for a few months and I'm going to be here for a few months longer, enjoying the nice weather. But I usually spend time in Britain.
Okay, so you are about 9 hours ahead of us in the US. I'm in Kentucky right now, so.
Yeah, roughly that, yeah.
Okay, so I know you've done a lot. I mean, after looking at your bio, I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. So do you want to share anything about yourself before we get into your book? Anything that you want to share would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people always wonder about my journey. And, like everybody else, if you're looking back, kind of retrospectively, it looks very planned and meticulous and disciplined where I go from stage to stage.
Sure.
And really, from my perspective, it's been fairly chaotic. I just respond to the pressures of the environment like everybody else. And what I try to do in every situation is use the skills I have and make the best possible decisions in terms of how I apply my energy and make my choices. And that's what sort of has led me to this part here. And this is going to become relevant as we discuss health and fitness and cognitive health.
What inspired you to turn what you were doing, your focus, to fitness in order to write your book, Built to Last? So you're a chemical engineer, you're a black belt in martial art. I mean, that's huge. And now, you're in fitness, obviously, David, from martial arts. Have you always practiced martial arts?
Yes, actually, I've been doing martial arts since I was 13, and I'm kind of 61 now, so it's been a while. And
Well, it's
I've
paid
got
off, David.
Thank you.
Well,
I've got a black belt in 3 different styles. I competed internationally and nationally for about 10 years between 1991 and 2000. And I
wow.
never really wanted to do anything with fitness
Hmm.
because that's been my safety valve. I've got stress in my life like everybody else. And that was the part of me that actually kept me sane and helped me retain the kind of balance that allowed me to function at a very high level. And what changed that has led to this book is that after COVID, I went to Greece. I went there for the summer. COVID came in, everything was locked down. So I spent almost 2 years in Greece, being unable to fly out. And luckily, I've got a house there, so it wasn't a big hardship.
Hmm.
And I sort of transformed one of the rooms in my house into a proper, fully functioning gym in order to retain my sanity.
Okay.
And I've got a friend of mine who lives nearby, and he also has a house with a gym. And once a week, we got together and we trained together. And we discussed things. He would come and tell me about this study or with an article he saw, whatever. And I would then, go back and look at studies and see exactly what was happening. And because there are a lot of misconceptions about fitness, and he was reflecting that, and we had to discuss it at depth. And out of those discussions arose the book, the seed of it, right? So essentially it was like, let's demystify this subject. Let's find out why is fitness actually so difficult for so many people, even though there are a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of pressure from governmental agencies, there's a lot of pressure from society for us to be fit, and yet we're failing. And that's what intrigued me. So that's the question I went deep to answer as simply as possible.
Okay. Well, discipline is hard, David, isn't it? I mean, I tell my fitness students the hardest thing you had today so far was getting up and deciding to come to my class. The hard
Yes.
part's over.
Yes,
Now,
you're 100% correct. That's the hardest part.
yeah, just
But
deciding.
we use certain words like willpower and discipline,
Hmm.
and they come, unfortunately, with a baggage of implied societal judgment. So,
Mm,
you haven't got the willpower, you haven't got the discipline, you're failing at this. And from my perspective, there's none of that. What essentially gets us out of one place to go to another, from a
sure.
neuroscientific perspective, is motivation. And motivation, again, neuroscientifically, is a sensation which allows us to feel bad about something. And once that level of bad reaches a particular threshold, which is reflected by the accumulation of specific neurotransmitters in our brain, we
Hmm.
are moved to take action. And the moment we move to take action, that's our motivation. And motivation is fickle. Sometimes, let's say we get up a little bit earlier, get up a little bit later, something changes in our life and we're not as motivated. But in order to have willpower, what we need to do is know what to do. That's the plan, some kind of plan which needs to be in place. And in order to have discipline, we need a structure around that plan, which allows us to execute the plan day after day. So if we're smart about it and we say, okay, let's talk about fitness. I need to get fit. What does that actually mean? What does fitness mean for me? Do I need to get leaner? Do I need to get faster? Do I need to get stronger? A combination of all those things? Do I just need to walk longer? Whatever it is for us at a personal level. If we work that out, then we can put in place a plan which will allow us every day to do something which will enable us to reach our goal. And if that plan then has a structure around it where we have perhaps segmented a time of the day, which allows us to execute that, we have our staff ready, we have picked, if we go to a gym or a place to do it, which is not too far away, we have perhaps agreed with a buddy to apply a little bit of social pressure on us to go together. Whatever that structure is, that's our discipline. So when we talk about willpower and discipline, essentially it's those two things. Being smart about putting together a process, if you like, and then a structure around that process, which allows us to repeat the process day after day or week after week. And then we're done if we do that.
Don't you think an account, like you were just speaking, David, an accountability group, like a person you can work out with, or you can say, I'm going to meet you at the gym, or we're going to go walking and we're going to do this. I think having someone or a group is also very motivating to an individual. It's helped me all these years with fitness, just having a group of students in front of me, teaching them. They were my accountability group and they still are. And I think they feel the same way. And then they build relationships within those groups.
Yes. I mean, essentially, you're putting, as you described this, you're putting together a structure which
Mhm.
allows you to repeat something again and again. And that's the reason behind it. So essentially, every time we create something like this, two things happen. First of all, we lower the resistance barrier to not do it, to not doing it. So we are more willing to do it. And second thing is we increase the reasons for doing it. We increase the value we're going to get back. So if we just, let's say, on your own and you agreed with yourself to go to a particular place where there's nobody else and exercise 4 times a week, guaranteed 3 weeks in, you're going to cut it down to 2 times a week.
Mhm.
And then it's going to go down to 1 time a week because life is messy. Things are coming at you. You're expending energy all the time. And there's nobody to say, why didn't you come for this? Which is also energetically costly. But if you do it with friends, however, there you are. You have it in place. So it becomes a lot easier.
Yes, and people miss one another if they don't show up. If one of my students doesn't show up for a few days or a week, I'm thinking, okay, what's going on with them? And you maybe check on them, or the other students may check on them. So even if one partner doesn't feel like going, if there's two people involved, the other partner will motivate and say, come on, let's do this, even if you don't feel like doing this. It's all about just making, I think, David, the decision, I'm going to do this, but like you said, I've got to put this structure in place so I'm successful and that I follow
Yes.
through. So You are in your 60s, you're fit, you've taken care of your body your whole life. You know the importance of it, and it just makes us a happier person when we feel good. It's not about weight, but it's about knowing what to do. And I would really like you to get into that in this segment. You say that fitness isn't just about muscles. You write it's about impact on brain health and aging. So how does movement protect and even sharpen our minds as we age? I love this.
Thank you for that. That's an awesome question. Let's examine some of the impact of muscle strength and tissue strength on the brain. Now, at the first instance, anything which we do, which helps move our body, improves our circulation, improves oxygenation in the bloodstream, improves the ability of our arteries to carry everything where they should be, and also helps our body respond to the outside pressures and deliver adaptations at a cellular level. And what happens to the body also happens everywhere. It happens to the brain. Same cells, same fuel. It uses ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, as fuel. Same as the muscles do. But if we work the body a little bit harder, this is what happens. Let's think of the brain as the executive mechanism which allows us to control the body. And because the body now has to work differently in 3D space, the brain needs to be rewired. We talk a lot about neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to change its wiring. Well, any kind of exercise, dancing, playing golf, walking over uneven ground, any of those things force the brain to rewire itself so that basically it becomes renewed in a way. And anytime we try something a little bit harder, which we haven't tried before, we force the brain to generate. We get neurogenesis. So basically we get new neurons, fresh cells in the brain, which allow it to operate at a more efficient, more optimal level. So this is a very simple, and there's a huge complexity around this, of course.
Right.
But if we just discount the complexity, there is a direct link, evidence-based, which shows that the more you move your body, the sharper your brain becomes. It's as simple as that.
That's so good. David, I found that like repetitions and patterns, like changing up my patterns in the class. So I never teach the exact same class. There's always a different pattern, and there's always strength involved, maybe a little bit of cardio, stretching, try to bring it all, but I'm always trying to change up. You're moving front and back, side, like, all these different directions. You're squatting, you're lunging, all these things to help keep the brain sharp. Is that something we should be doing and incorporating?
Absolutely. I love the fact that you're doing this. You are stopping your pupils from going into autopilot. So basically, they're kind of dialing in their performance like as automatons. You're forcing them to be mindful. You're forcing the brain to be engaged. You're forcing attentional direction to take place. And you are basically laying the basis for both neurogenesis and neuroplasticity to occur. So that mix and match which you're creating, apart from making your lessons interesting, has significant mental health impact.
You know what I've noticed, David, even with my own husband, I've had him on my show just a few times, and he's like, Teresa, I'm not wired like that, like to do a squat and a press and a squat and a knee drive and a rotation. And, he's more, I'm going to press and just stand here, where I'm trying to tell him, you need to try and bring that other movement into that as well. But is there a big difference between men and women in their styles of workout? Does it matter?
Um, that's a contentious question because the science of this is very new. We know that men and women cannot train the same when they're training for very specific goals. But when we're talking about health and fitness and keeping your body young and capable and moving, well, the same kind of patterns of movements will produce very similar results internally and slightly dissimilar results externally. But here's the interesting thing, and your husband clearly, he's fit, he's strong, he relies on his traits to try and get through something so he's not challenged, and he should be challenged. So anytime we try something, the first instance, what do we use? We use what we're good at. So if you try to lift a box, and let's say you haven't got very strong arms, you're going to lift it with your legs. But if you have very strong arms and a strong back, you're going to use the wrong technique, but it'll be easier for you because you're using your strength. And then you mentioned in your class you do repetitions, and that's amazing because repetitions produce two different results. The first thing is that they enable the neurons, because they fire on a repeated basis, to get stronger. So our brain connection, our mind-body connection, the brain-muscle connection becomes stronger. We become more efficient. Because we become more efficient, here comes the second effect. You teach something to somebody, and it doesn't matter how fit they are, it doesn't matter how adept they are. If it's the first time they see it, they're going to do it wrong. Why are they going to do it wrong? Because although they've seen the technique, they're going to use their strength, their particular strength, and not the way that the technique should be performed in an optimized manner. But as you repeat it, and this is the basis of dancing, this is the basis of martial arts and ballet, as you repeat it, what do? You exhaust the body's ability to constantly use the same muscle groups because they get tired. And now you force it to adapt. And the adaptations create efficiencies, and the efficiencies are the good technique that you actually seek. So it's really smart what you're doing.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about people that, and there's nothing wrong with working out on treadmills or the stepper or any machines like that. But what about is that constant, you're going in the same direction, you're doing the same thing. And I remember at the gym, I would see people reading magazines or watching the I'm thinking, how can they do that and be engaged with their body and focus on their breathing and move at the same time?
Okay, I mean, again, you bring something up which is it's really, really good. Always something is better than nothing. So if they're doing this,
Yeah.
and it's much more preferable than them doing nothing.
Mhm.
However, again, we know from studies that if you are aware of the way your body moves, you do the exact same workout and you can get as much as 20% more results from it, whether it's lifting weights or walking or whatever it is you're actually doing. The reason for that is that if the brain is paying attention, then it sends a stronger signal to the body. It is more likely to then, the body in response to the signal that it receives, to allocate the resources necessary for the changes you want to see. So if you want to get leaner or faster or stronger, if you lift a weight and you have the headphones on, your eyes shut, you're not looking at the mirror, sure, you will get stronger, but somebody else doing exactly the same thing as you are and being present in the moment can get up to 20% more better results in the same period of time. It's amazing. So being present is it's better. It makes us feel better. It gives
Absolutely.
better results. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of fitness myths out there. So, would you share some of those fitness myths? Maybe some that are holding people back from actually moving, and
Yes.
keeping their body fit.
Yes. I'll share three, which are very common. The first one is the no pain, no gain mantra.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to hurt in order to produce really, really great results, not just short term, but also long term. And there's a whole science behind that. So the no pain, no gain came from a very specific part of the exercise spectrum. High performance athletes, they need that in order to exceed certain limits. For ordinary people, it doesn't actually do anything. The second thing is the all in. People will say, well, I need to just go all in or it's not worth it. No, we know that if you do a little bit at a time, it'll work for you. And the third thing is if you have no time, people say I have no time, if you can allocate a minute a day and do something for a minute, that will actually work. And there's again science behind that.
Yes, I totally agree, David. And if someone's at work and like they said, I don't have time to work out, I say, what about every hour you do something for 1 minute, whether it's just you do chair sits, you just stand up, you sit down, you just march in place, you move around, just do something. A little bit of something goes a long way in the day. So we're just trying to inspire people to move and it makes total sense. It helps the brain, it helps the whole body, it helps you to feel so much better. David, you were so interesting. I want to hear more about your book, Built to Last, how to get stronger, healthier, and happier at every stage of life. You've obviously been taking care of your body that God designed. And when we do that, you and I both know we honor God when we do take care of our bodies. But what inspired you to write this book? I wanted to ask you that.
It's trying to answer a simple question. So many people try to get fit and fail, and every year more and more people make resolutions, which they abandon by about mid-March at the latest. And the answer was, why is it so difficult?
Hmm.
Why can we not just get fitter? And answering that question opened up a whole lot of research avenues because there's a lot of science behind this. But the most obvious one is that most times we try to get fit by adhering to an outside image of us, which we receive, which doesn't actually fit our values or our image or our circumstances or our capabilities. So then we think we're failing and we give up.
Hmm.
And the truth is that fitness is a personal matter. It's as personal as anything else which comes from us. We are the only experts on us. So we need to work out, and the book comes into its own here, helping people work out their own idea of fitness. Then it gives them a very specific step process on how to go about it. And then it also gives them some things they can do in terms of workouts or fitting their time in their day so they don't have to think too deeply about what to do when it comes to doing things. And that becomes the basis of a blueprint, which is very personal on how you go about getting fit and actually feeling that fitness in your body, feeling the sense that you are empowered in your own body, which is an amazing feeling to have.
Absolutely. And like you said in the other segment, a little bit of exercise is better than no exercise. If someone wants to just go out there and walk for 5 to 10 minutes, start there. Start with small steps instead of all or nothing. How important is the faith aspect, David, when it comes to our health and fitness?
It is hugely important. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Now, there have been thousands by now longitudinal studies, where studies which follow subjects for a specific number of years, which sometimes stretches to decades. And they look at the faith element in terms of longevity, in terms of overall health, in terms of overall happiness. And what they see is that people who are religious in their approach to life, on average, live between 5.6 to 10 years longer than people who are not. And the reason for this, there's a whole lot of stuff now associated with this. It comes to personal approach, it comes to personal responsibility, it comes to accountability, it comes to personal values. All those things are reflected in the small daily choices we make. People who regularly go to church tend not to smoke, not to drink, not to make risky choices in their life in terms of lifestyle. They tend to have a strong social element, and we know that being social is the fourth pillar of fitness.
Mm.
And that allows us to lower chronic stress, which reduces a whole lot of other sort of illnesses that impact us as we age. It tends to give us a support, an instant support network we can reach out to, which then mitigates the stress we feel in our lives as we reach certain critical points and we need some help. It helps us feel that we belong. And obviously, faith always informs our worldview. And having that worldview, which helps us understand the big picture, the things which normally would stress us out, then also has a positive impact in the terms of how we feel the stress that impacts us, how we deal with uncertainty, how we deal with ambiguity, which are always ever present in our lives. So just that thing that actually we have meaningful faith, because anybody can say, okay, I believe without really being part of structured religion. But if you don't feel it, it doesn't work for you. And again, there's studies on this. So those people who actually feel that and they practice daily have better health outcomes. There are studies which were carried out by the University of Miami, which looked at people who pray for others on a daily basis instead of praying for themselves. And this is also a study reflected in Buddhism, which is a specific name, where again you pray for others in the world. And it showed that because we, in order to do that, we take ourselves out of our own sense of stress and anxiety,
Yes.
it immediately lowers our stress levels. It lowers our anxiety and the impact, the neurochemical impact that has on us on a negative basis. And it allows us to experience better health outcomes. Just that simple thing. And other things like gratitude practices, the gratitude practice, sort of trying to do something good for somebody, small things like that,
Mhm.
again, tend to have a very positive impact on our health at a physical and mental level, because our brain is also affected by what we do. So
Right.
having a strong faith element in our fitness helps us become fitter and healthy automatically.
And that makes so much sense. David, before and I was a Christian and I taught fitness. It was very all about self and how you looked and what you could do. And I will tell you, when I started reading the Bible and realized, gosh, this body was given to me as a gift from God, and I should honor him by taking care of it, not just in working out, like what I drank, what I ate, what I saw, what I watched, what I allowed myself to do. So he became my accountability partner in a really higher power way. And I think that that helps people once they catch on to, oh, you can pray and you can work out and you can, thank the Lord for this day. And it just makes you a happier person. We only have 30 seconds left, but tell us what you want before we have to leave. Tell us where we can find your book.
Kind of bookshop, you can just go in and order it. If you order it through bookshop.org, you can then help your local community because you support bookshops. And you can find me at davidamerland.com.
David, thank you so much. David's book, Built to Last. Everyone order it, How to Get Stronger, Healthier, and Happier at Every Stage of Life. David, thank you so much. I want to have you on again. I love your demeanor and how you explain things and just what you're doing to help people. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shaped by Faith with Theresa Rowe. Remember to visit shapebyfaith.com to find out more about workouts, the TV show, podcasts, blogs, Shaped by Faith products, and much more.